What is up, fellow nerds, and welcome back to the Dapper Snapper Gaming channel, and welcome back to How Do I Want to Do This. This is our series where we take a look at all playable options available to players in Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition, and then we rank them on a scale of 1 to 10 and either build them or fix them depending on how they rank. Now today we finish up our talks on the Scout Rogue, the most rangerist of the rogues out there. Is it flavorful? Not really. Is it anything crazy? Not really. It's very middle of the road. We talked about it back on Tuesday. That'll be up in the iCard above for you to check out right there. We went into a lot of details on what each of those features do and kind of the flavor, but today we're going to actually put that into an application and build one together, and I'm looking forward to that. Before we do though, make sure to leave a like on the video and subscribe if you haven't already. Also, make sure to share the video with your friends and click the bell so you're notified when new videos are uploaded. Also, another great way to support the channel would be to join by becoming a member down below. For just $2 a month, you can get access to all of my build guides and subclass fixes. I make up fancy documents for all of those, and so those would be great to take to your table, follow along with the video, whatever it is that you happen to do, but it really helps to support the channel and to help me do what it is that I do. Of course, there are higher tiers. Of course, being a silver snapper, of course, gives you access to all of my videos 24 hours early, which is a great perk. It also gives you a special shout out, and the gold tier is currently developing a few more things. We, of course, are going to get some priority in the Discord in order to help me with video topics, that kind of thing, and there are a few more things developing for that as time goes on. Of course, you do not have to be a member in order to support this channel. Thank you all so much for being here. I appreciate all of you who are watching all the way till the end of the video. And with that out of the way, let's jump into what we have for today. So like I said, the Scout Rogue is very rangery in feel. Now, is it necessarily redundant to look at Ranger as a multi-classing option? Not really, actually, because the Ranger does get several things that are very different from what you get in the Rogue chassis. And of course, there are plenty of other things out there that really would mesh well with this. Anything that meshes well with the Ranger, honestly, will mesh well with this. And so we've got a decent amount of options open to us when it comes to multiclassing. Of course, we're going to be doing a little bit of multiclassing today just to spice this build up a little bit, since I found the Scout to be kind of boring. So we'll do some fun multiclassing, make this a little more interesting, make this a little more fun, and we'll just have to see what I've come up with for today. All right, so let's jump in. Here are the rules, of course, for this series in case you weren't aware. And so we are going to jump right in with our race. Our race this week is pretty standard, honestly. I don't think that anything about this race is anything too crazy. We're going with an elf, and more specifically the wood elf. The wood elf gives us some interesting things here, and we're really going to be using all of them. All of them really work well here for what it is that we're trying to do. Of course, we get all of the standard stuff that all of the elves get, you know, your trance and your Fey ancestry and all that other stuff that you get. But you do get some specific things by being a wood elf, things like the elf weapon training, the fleet of foot, and mask of the wild. With the elf weapon training, we actually are going to get access to the longbow right off the bat, which normally a rogue would not. So that allows us to actually start in rogue rather than having to start elsewhere in order to get that proficiency, which is pretty good, because then that means we get more proficiencies in skills off the bat because of how rogues work and how multiclassing is and that kind of thing. So I like that. I want to start in rogue here, and this allows me to do that. With fleet of foot, we get a bonus to our walking speed, which of course is going to help us out a lot once we start taking our rogue levels and get further in. We have a lot of features that of course will boost our ability to move, and of course moving half our movement as a reaction when something ends its turn within our range. That also is pretty nice as well, because then we can get further and further and further away, which is really cool. So that's awesome. And finally, Mask of the Wild, making it easier for us to hide. Rogues love hiding, so I think that's great. I think that works out really well for us. As far as our stats, of course, modified standard array that you just saw. If your stats are different at your table, of course, just adjust them accordingly, going highest to lowest. Starting off for our highest stat, we're going with dexterity, followed by wisdom, then constitution, then the bottom three don't matter. It does not matter for the bottom three. Just I put strength, charisma, intelligence. that order is not important. It's really whatever you want to do. We're not going to have any kind of armor that needs this strength requirement. We're not using strength for anything. We're not using charisma for anything. We live in the woods, for crying out loud. We don't need that. And intelligence, it's fine for skill checks, so if you want that at 12, go for it, but oh well. We of course get a +2 and +1 bonus from our racial, and so we are going to put the +2 into our dexterity and the +1 into our constitution, and that is going to leave an odd wisdom, which we will patch up just a little bit later. For our equipment, of course, we are going to be going with just the basics here, some light armor, and I think we go with a longbow here. Because we have that elf weapon training, we can go with that longbow and deal a lot of damage. We're going to have ways of backing up for basically free because we are a scout, and it's going to allow us to be a little harder to pin down. So going for those ranged attacks, I think, is going to be a little bit better. So let's start taking some levels here, and level 1, like I said, we're starting in Rogue. I know I normally start with the other class that I'm multi-classing into and that kind of thing, but today I think Rogue actually works the best. We want a lot of skill proficiencies to be more well-rounded, and we're going to get some freebies by being a Rogue here, which is pretty cool, and we're going to get extras here by being a Rogue naturally, and then of course we're going to get even more by being a Scout Rogue, which is really cool. We get expertise, so we get 2 skills of our choice that we get to bump up that proficiency bonus by double, or you can of course do Thieves Tools, which also is always a great option. You've got Sneak Attack here, which is great. We're going to start building that up as we take more Rogue levels, and Thieves Cant, cool little feature to allow you to communicate with other rogues. At Rogue 2, we get Cunning Action, and this gives us a plethora of things to do on our bonus action, including dash, disengage, and hide. This is amazing in the mobility department, as we already have a boosted movement speed. Now dashing gives us another boost, essentially, which is pretty cool. And just to make you aware, we're going to boost it up even more, not just through our subclass, but we'll find some other ways to do that as well. At Rogue 3, we of course grab our subclass here, and we get Skirmisher, Survivalist, and Steady Aim. Now, I watched back my video from Tuesday, and I did want to make a couple of points clearer, because I felt that I didn't make it quite clear what these level 3 features do. So for Skirmisher, we can move up to half our speed as a reaction when an enemy ends its turn within 5 feet of us. This is something that's important, but there's an important distinction that this does not trigger when you are taking an attack. This triggers at the end of its turn. So this does not prevent you from taking damage that turn from the enemy. It just helps you to run maybe a little bit later. So that's a point of confusion that I felt that I didn't explain very well. And also with Survivalist, you gain proficiency with nature and survival, and you also have expertise in them. Again, I didn't explain that well, but so don't take proficiency in those at character creation. You're going to get them for free here. Don't take expertise in them because you're going to get expertise in them. So leave those alone. You'll get them at level 3, and we'll move on. So there, I just wanted to fix that up there. Of course, Steady Aim is also really cool. We get the bonus action, forego our movement, and we can gain free advantage. We won't really need that all that much as we go on, but it's nice here for early levels. At level 4, we are now going to look elsewhere for our levels. I wanted to go ahead and build the 3 levels of foundation before I looked anywhere else. And to be honest, the reason why we're multi-classing at this point is because of just how rogues work. Rogues have a big drought in big name features, at least subclass features, between levels 3 and 9. And this of course creates a bit of an issue when it comes to cool flavor pieces, when it comes to picking up some really cool mechanical stuff. You know, of course we get uncanny dodge, we get evasion, we get more expertise, that kind of thing in that range. But ultimately, it's not that exciting because every rogue gets that, while most others are really pushing that needle as far as power goes because of subclass features they're getting earlier. So I wanted to go ahead and multi-class here, and I think it will help us in this middle range as we enter tier 2 here pretty soon, and that way we can really be on par with everybody else. And so we're going to go with Ranger. Ranger makes a lot of sense here. Like I said, flavor-wise, it fits super well, and mechanically, it also slots in right there. That's why we have such a good wisdom on this build, because we want to be able to multiclass, and we want to be an effective ranger and rogue at the same time, and we will be just that. At Ranger 1, we're going to get Canny, which is another round of expertise, essentially, just half of a round. So yeah, we got 2 at level 1. We got 2 more at level 3. We now have another one, and then when we get a little further in Rogue, we're gonna get 2 more. So that's a lot of skills, which is really great. That's absolutely fantastic. We also get Favored Foe, which we are never going to use because that feature sucks. At Ranger 2, we of course get a fighting style, and we're going to go with archery. With the longbow, of course, we get that +2 bonus to hit, which is always going to be useful. I always am going to love that. We also get spellcasting, and Hunter's Mark is right there. Hunter's Mark makes it worth really taking these levels away from Rogue, because that can essentially replace that D6 that we are missing out on. So that's nice. That's pretty cool. I like that. Of course, it does cost our bonus action, but that's fine because we really aren't using our bonus action for anything else outside of cunning action. So I'm good with it. I think that works out well. And then at Rogue 3, we get to choose our subclass. On top of Primal Awareness, which everybody gets, we are going to go with a really fun option as well. I think that flavor-wise, you can really make this work. But we're gonna go with the Swarm Keeper. Really interesting subclass. Every character that plays this subclass is very weird and very interesting, and I would love to know the story of your scout rogue who also is a Swarm Keeper. I think that's really cool, what animal that he or she decides to bring along and that kind of thing. Really cool stuff. But of course we get Gathered Swarm, and this again gives us another D6 of damage that replaces that missing sneak attack, and that's a really important thing here that makes it worth the multi-classing, as well as all the other stuff that we get, right? We get movement options. We can push other people with a save, and we can move ourselves, which gives us another way of getting out of melee. We are really hard to pin down. You do not have to worry about creatures trying to grapple you, because it is just not going to happen. It's just not going to happen because you're going to get pushed out of that very easily, and it's really cool. We also get access to Mage Hand and Fairy Fire, and there's our free advantage. I said earlier that we really didn't need steady aim, and that's why. So now we are going to switch from Hunter's Mark over to Fairy Fire, and honestly, giving up that 1d6 is going to be better as long as we are maintaining that concentration and getting free advantage. So yeah, I would rather take that. Then Ranger 4, yes, we are still going. Come on, it's got to be Elven Accuracy. Elven Accuracy makes way too much sense here. We have free advantage most of the time with Fairy Fire that we've just gotten. And so yeah, now we're rolling 3 dice to hit instead of 2, which makes us possibly crit, which means that we are dealing sneak attack, plus the Gathered Swarm, plus all this other stuff, and we're just dealing a ton of damage, and it's only going to get better and better as we go. And just to tack all of that on, we get to then also boost our dexterity, because that's what we're using for our attacks, which is going to round that out to an even number. Also feels really good there. Ranger 5, we're going to get extra attack, also very exciting there. If we miss our first shot, we get another shot at it. That way we can really guarantee that we're making the most of our sneak attack each turn, which is great. And then finally, we're going to go back to Rogue, and we're going to stay here the rest of the way. At Rogue 4, we get Sharpshooter, which is another amazing bonus to our damage. It of course also lets us ignore partial cover, which is also really great. And of course we can fire really far away, and again with the longbow, that means we've got a super far range, and I love that. But of course everybody's here for the -5 + 10, and with the archery fighting style plus the advantage, we're still going to be fine most of the time. So I really like that. Rogue 5, Uncanny Dodge, just like everybody else. Really cool defensive feature. Rogue 6, Expertise. So we now have 7 skills with Expertise, which is great. Love that. Then Evasion at Rogue 7, another great defensive feature for those dexterity saving throws. And then Rogue 8, we get our next ASI or feat. We have an odd numbered Wisdom, and I want to fix that. And what better way to fix that than with Fey Touched? Fey Touched gives us a bonus action Misty Step, which is amazing. Misty Step is an amazing spell, and just feels really good to be able to teleport away. Again, we are really slippery, and we are hard to pin down, and I love that option. We also get one other spell, and it's got to be Silvery Barbs as always. I mean, come on, it's Silvery Barbs. You gotta always take it. If you qualify for it, you gotta take it. It's right there. Rogue 9, we get superior mobility, so now we have boosted our movement speed just a little bit more, which is great. We don't have a swim speed or a climb speed, but honestly, that's fine. I'm not that worried about it. Just the extra mobility is really nice when in combination with Skirmisher, so I like that. At Rogue 10, we're going to boost it again with the mobile feat. Is this redundant? Sure, but why not push it to its limit and push that even further? And I really like that. Really cool. Rogue 11, we get reliable talent, so now our skill checks are going to be even better, especially since we have expertise in so many skills. That's awesome. Rogue 12, ASI again. You can really do whatever you want here. I would probably boost my wisdom here just to make sure that that fairy fire save is as hard to pass as possible, but that's just me. You could also go with another option there, but that's what I'm going to go with. At Rogue 13, we get Ambush Master, which is pretty good. I think that this feature is fine. It's definitely better than what we've had before with subclass features, but again, nothing game breaking, nothing game changing there. Really cool. All the details, of course, back on Tuesday's video. Rogue 14, Blind Sense. Not the best thing ever for us, just because we are going to hopefully be keeping our distance, but maybe it'll come out being okay. We'll see. And then finally, Rogue 15, level 20, Slippery Mind. We get proficiency with wisdom saving throws. So what do we think of this week's build? I think it's a lot of fun. I think it's super simple, but I think it's fun, and I think that it works out really well. I think it patches up some holes that the Scout leaves, even though the Scout's fine. I think that it does actually patch up some issues that it has and some shortcomings, and I like it. I think that this is a really fun and simple way to fix it up and make it a really effective build. Of course, let me know down in the comments how you would build one, how you would go about this differently. But before we leave for today, we're going to go through our honorable mentions. Number 1, of course, the Fighter. The Fighter makes a lot of sense here, and honestly, it's probably mechanically better to go with that. The reason why is I honestly think, to me, if you're doing 20 level build, which, you know, nobody is, but if you're doing a 20 level build like this, I would probably go 3 levels of champion and then the rest into rogue. This gives you easier crits, which is really good. It expands your crit range, which is really great, but even more so, it allows you to possibly sneak attack 3 times in one turn. Just you can only do it twice to one creature and then once to another. You can't do all 3 into one creature, but still that could be really good. Definitely something to consider there. As far as other ranger subclasses, the Gloomstalker is super obvious here, but because of that, that's not what I wanted to do. I'd rather go Swarmkeeper because I think that's a lot more flavorful. And finally, Cleric. I think Cleric makes a lot of sense here, and the Nature Cleric, most especially, I think works great. The Nature Cleric is a surprisingly good subclass when it comes to just DPS, and I think it would work really well with the Scout Rogue. For other feat options, Crossbow Expert makes a lot of sense here. We did not take Crossbow Expert here, unfortunately, so that would be an option if you wanted to go with a crossbow instead of the longbow. Of course, you would have to start Ranger rather than Rogue if you wanted to do that, because you would need the proficiency, but definitely could be possible there. And Telekinetic also is really cool here, being able to move people around. It kind of fits the theme of being able to move us around, get people away from us, that kind of thing. So I really like that. For other racial options, any elven race works here. I think the Wood Elf just works the best because of the expanded move speed, but honestly, any of them work just fine. The Tabaxi is also a great one. Very nimble. It gives you a climb speed, which again would be boosted later on when you get superior mobility, which is cool. Plus you get a natural claw attack, that kind of thing, which is pretty cool. And then finally, the Simic Hybrid, I think, is a really interesting option. You are basically a monster that lives in the woods, and the Simic Hybrid is fun because it's so customizable, and so you can give yourself the climb speed or the swim speed or whatever you want to do. I think that's cool, and so I think that works well here as well. So that is our video for today. Of course, tomorrow we have the first week's battle of the new league, the LTM Low Tier Pokemon Draft League, and I'm looking forward to showing you that. And then Sunday we have the semifinals match versus J Scurf to see if we can make it to finals. of UNPL this season. It is going to be an exciting time. Make sure to check those out. Until next time, stay safe out there, stay healthy. We'll see you later. Bye-bye.